Hey, welcome on out to the Yards After College podcast here on KSLSports.com and the KSL Sports app. I'm Sam Farnsworth and Kyle Ireland. We are your hosts, as usual, here on the podcast every week to talk about all things locally related to Utah in the NFL. And there's a lot of that going on every single week. And we continue to have former high school and college athletes shine every single week. Kyle, did you like what we saw in week 2?
I was like super surprised that the first week was followed up by such an awesome week, because it's usually like, Sam, like there's like one good week and then there's like a down week, and then like there's like a flow to the season. And like it's like 2 really strong weeks by the local guys back to back to start the season. So I was really happy about it. At the same time, I was also really busy on Sundays. I'm sure kidding. You were as well, but my gosh, it was super fun. There's obviously a lot of talking points, like whether it's like the negatives or like the positives, guys coming out of nowhere. We can talk about all that, but yeah, it's pretty cool that, little Utah, like there's some like household names now, and pretty fun to see.
Yeah. When I talk to people that are new to our state, there's a lot of people always moving here. And, I'm involved at a certain level with youth sports, and I'll talk to other parents at my kids' games and stuff, and who have only lived here for a few years. And I mentioned how many NFL players have connections to Utah out there, and how many just came from Utah high schools that are in the NFL.
Right.
And it just, they're like, wow, I didn't realize. I'm like, yeah, this is a football hotbed. Love it or not, like it or leave it, Utah is a hotbed for football talent, and we saw a lot of it this weekend. So Kyle, I think what we'll do here is we'll just get straight in. I've got you know me, I love my 3 stars every week, and I've got 3 this week. Do you want to just jump right into that? Should we do that?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll start with number 3.
3rd star.
And there it is. My 3rd star this week, Kyle, goes to San Francisco 49ers linebacker Fred Warner. This guy is elite in the NFL, not just a local in the NFL. This guy is elite in the NFL, one of the best defensive players. I mean, he's going to be, if he continues to play the way he's playing right now, he's going to be in those conversations for Defensive Player of the Year when it's all said and done with, and that would be just such an awesome, well-earned award for him. He deserves to be All-Pro again. And I know we're only 2 weeks in, but he did it once again. 11 tackles on Sunday against the Los Angeles Rams, second on the team. That, of course, we know double-digit tackles is pretty common for him. 9 of those were solo, though, and he got a big sack in the game as well. Fred is just so fun to watch. If you ever just watch a Niners and Rams game and you're able to spot Fred Warner on the field, just watch him. Instead of watching the ball, watch Fred Warner. Watch how he sets up, how he shifts with the ball, who he's matching up with. It's pretty fun to do, and then pretty awesome to see when he lays the wood on someone or comes up with a big-time sack.
The crazy thing about the 49ers defense, Sam, is it's like Fred is amazing. He's like a top 15 player in the NFL, and he's not even the best defensive guy on the team. And so, like, that's the crazy part, is watching the Niners, like you said, like, he's flying around, but I also think that because of the pressure that Bosa puts on an offense, it really frees up Fred. He's like in the perfect spot. He has the perfect guy playing in front of him on the line where Fred can do all of the Fred things that he does, right? And you saw that on Sunday against the Rams. And I really think that after 2 weeks, the Rams might be like a sneaky, like, decent team. Like, everybody kind of was like, oh, the Rams are going to be terrible again. And after the week 1 win over the Seahawks, everybody was like, whoa, maybe the Rams. Like, they kind of hung with the Niners there for about, 3-ish quarters or so before the San Francisco defense really just like clamped things down there in the 4th quarter. But big credit to Fred Warner. He never really has a down game. And you saw that on Sunday. Like, they really just like, they can put a game away with, 1 or 2 plays, and Fred's a big part of that.
So if I had a 3B and a 3C this week,
the 5 stars.
We're stretching it here, but the 2 nominees. You know how when you watch highlights, this is a top.
Are we gonna have to do an honorable mention now?
Well, we'll see where we get. Hey, if we have this many locals putting up these many numbers every week, we might have to stretch it to more than just 3. or I might just have to raise the standard at least for what I make in the top 3. But I do want to, and we'll probably talk about these guys a little bit, but I do just want to give credit to the way, obviously Bobby Wagner does what he does every single week,
Sure.
and he did it again. So that's like, it's not that shocking. Julian Blackman, though, is a name I just going to throw out there. We can talk about him a little bit, but he was close to becoming my 3rd star as well, especially considering everything he's gone through. To see him out there leading his team in tackles, or he's close to leading his team in tackles, is pretty awesome. But he does not get a star. He just gets me to mention his name for a second here. Instead, here's my number 2 star.
2nd star.
Okay, so I know we had him last week, but I've got to give him credit again. Jordan Love is my number 2 star. Okay, the numbers might not have been as huge. Was 151 yards, 14 of 25. The completion percentage maybe down just a touch, 56%, but still 3 touchdowns, no picks. The guy is protecting the ball. He is playing very well through 2 games. These are very good numbers. Through 2 games, 396 yards and 6 touchdowns, no turnovers, and passer ratings are what they are. Some people like them, other people don't. I like the passer rating because I feel like it's a pretty good indicator of a very efficient and smart, good decision-making and good playing quarterback. You look at the list of all-time passer rating quarterbacks, Hall of Famers all at the top there, right? They're just amazing. And
are we talking QBR or are we talking rating?
Not QBR.
Okay.
I'm talking rating.
I'm
QBR
on the same
yes.
wavelength then. Yes, good.
I still don't totally get QBR. I think that's the stat that was created by ESPN, if I don't mistake. But the passer rating of 118.8 is outstanding through 2 games.
Yep.
So even though they lost it by 3 points, the way he's playing has been super efficient, and he's been the leader that offense needs.
So I actually will box score watch as I'm watching the games, which is also amazing. Can I just shout out YouTube TV? I know they're not a sponsor, but the NFL Sunday Ticket this year is outstanding. You can have any combination pretty much of the NFL game. So I had a 4-box on the TV. I had Red Zone on my iPad. I've got the computer sitting on my lap. I've got the entire setup now, and I'm just bouncing between screens. I've got the box scores. I'm just absorbing information constantly, right? 11, 12 hours straight on Sunday, just football into my body. It's great. But going back, the rating, I will watch that with these quarterbacks. I watched it with Zach Wilson this weekend. I watched it with Jordan Love. And Jordan, the first 2 weeks of the season, that rating has just really been consistent. It's hovered around the 100 mark, and to finish the game where he did, what was it, 113.5, that's outstanding. And really, they didn't win the game, but it wasn't Jordan's fault, right? That's all you can ask for in a guy who's in his 3rd career start, is to not lose the game for you. Just put your team in a position to win. And he's actually doing the opposite. He's helping them or I guess not the opposite, but he's exceeding that is what I mean to say. 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, like you mentioned. I think that's about as perfect of a start as you could have expected Jordan Love to have to start this year.
Well, speaking of perfect starts, let's get right to that number 1 star.
1st star. Let's go!
Who could have scripted a better start?
I know.
To not just a season, but to an NFL career.
Those NFL script writers. Those
yeah, we've seen the commercials. You know what'd be great? I've got a good one for you.
Key and Peele.
This is going to take everyone off guard. No one's going to expect this. Yeah, we're going to make this guy jump off as an early. What's his name? Nacua. Let's make him a star. Yeah. You kidding me? Puka Nacua. It's funny when you see the highlights out there and people are I never heard of this guy before. And I'm kind of shocked by that because he was good in college. He was above good in college. He was solid at the combine and the other invites that he's had. I'm sure most NFL people had an idea of possibly who he is, but no one had an idea he could start like this. And yeah, you could say maybe this is a result of Cooper Kupp being out, but we talked about him last week with his 10 catch game and 100 plus yards, and just how bonkers that was. Well, how do you follow that up? Like, I'm sure everyone, especially locally, when it comes to fantasy football, we're like, ooh, do I pick up Puka, or is this too much of am I being a homer by picking him up here? Because, it's only been one game. We gotta see how he follows this up. Well, then 15 for 147. Are you kidding me? And a lot of records with that. I'm sure you know what all those are.
So there were a few of them, Sam.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part. So he broke the single game rookie reception record, if I said that correctly. There's a lot of words there in that.
Yeah.
But he had, 15 catches for 147 yards in week 2. But to tie that into his week 1 game, which we talked about last week, where he had, 11 catches? 10 catches? 10 catches. And so 25 receptions, and I believe it was 35 targets. Like, I don't have the box score up in front of me, so I could be wrong on that. But those two were the records where most amount of receptions over a 2-game stretch to start a career, in addition to just a single game as a rookie. So pretty impressive. The 2-game high to start a season, or a career, that is, was 19. And he was 6 catches above that. Like, I mean, Matthew Stafford was just like dinking and dunking the way down the field with Puka. And Puka was getting open. Like, and going back to when we were talking about Fred a few moments ago, like, that's a good defense that they were playing against.
Yes.
And Puka was able to find those holes. And like you said, that Cooper Kupp role really has kind of fit him well. It'll be interesting to see, I guess, if and when those two get to play together. I mean, sounds like the hamstring issue is kind of a weird thing with Kupp right now. So who knows?
I saw something that potentially week 5, but we're still talking like a couple more games without him.
Right. So I believe since he went on IR, you have to miss at least 4 games, and so week 5 is the earliest. But they were saying, I mean, there's been reports that like it's genetically like related to like what his hamstring issue is. Like, once it's like genetics, it's like that's kind of out of your hands, right? So kind of interesting, but it's cool to see how, like, we were talking about Puka, in the preseason training camp kind of situation a few weeks back, and we were like, hey, like maybe he could be like their wide receiver number 3, like that was like kind of like our stretch, and now we're like, oh, he's definitely their best wide receiver right now. And then when Kupp comes back, he's definitely number 2, right? And then if Kupp's not healthy, like, who knows, right? And I made a little video for social media kind of recapping Puka's week 2 performance. You can find that on kslsports.com social media if you want to laugh at me and make fun of me. But the thing about that is, like, I was like kind of just doing it to, pub the locals in the NFL stuff that we're putting out. But like, there's a part of it that I really kind of believe in this early campaign for him to be rookie of the year, because he's breaking NFL records. He's up there with the most receptions in the league with Justin Jefferson, who is like everybody's either your top wide receiver or like your second, like 1A, 1B with Jamar Chase, right? So like, it's pretty outstanding what he's done the first 2 weeks of the season. If he keeps this up, like, the NFL Rookie of the Year talk, like, a few weeks from now is really, really going to get picking up some steam.
So a couple of things I want to point out, which says just volumes about Puka Nacua. Their head coach, Sean McVay, one of the most respected up and coming. He's already arrived, but he's young. He's going to be around for a long time. He could go down as an all-time great for a head coach. Yeah. Matt Stafford, well respected, Super Bowl winning quarterback. Trust. Puka Nacua has the trust of Matt Stafford and Sean McVay. How? McVay continues to call plays to Nacua. Stafford continues to throw the ball to Nacua. You brought up a point, Kyle, how many times he's been targeted. 35 times in 2 games. You are targeting a guy because you trust him to make a catch. You know that if you throw the ball within the vicinity of his hands, he's going to be able to grab it. that he's going to run the route correctly, the route that he's supposed to run, that he's going to get open, all of those things. You're trusting a guy who's played 2 NFL games and yet going into this week, 1 NFL game, enough to give him 20 targets on Sunday. If you go to, last year, think of last year, Jamar Chase, a name that you just brought up, averaged 11 targets per game. He led the league. Cooper Kupp was right behind him, 10.8 targets per game. Justin Jefferson, another name that you brought up, 10.8 targets per game. And I know it's only 2 games, but if you go to StatMuse, I don't know if I enjoy dabbling on StatMuse every now and then.
We've had our moments back and forth with StatMuse, Sam.
Yeah, right. Yes, exactly. We have, for sure. But if you go there and you type who has the most targets per game in NFL history, guess who's number 1? Puka Nacua, 17.5. I know it's only 2 games, but on their list, he is number 1 at 17.5 targets per game. Number 2 is Marvin Harrison for a career at 9.8 targets per game. Obviously, he did that over a 146-game career. But
shattering records left and right.
but what I'm saying is it just says volumes about where he's already at as a 2-game rookie in the NFL with how much he's being trusted by his teammates.
Yeah, one last thing for me on Puka. You mentioned Sean McVay. In his post-game press conference, he said about Puka Nacua, he said, he's the epitome of what we want to be as Rams. I love Puka Nacua. That's like all you need to say, right?
Yeah,
Sean McVay loves Puka Nacua and has said as much.
So there we go. Those are my 3 stars. Now, I know there's more than that. I already brought up one, Julian Blackman. I don't know if you want to talk about him a little bit more, but there's other locals that had their moments this weekend as well. Kyle, who kind of stood out for you this week?
Hey, I'd love to talk about Julian Blackman because I love watching my Colts. And they're 1-1. And I feel pretty good about life. I'm feeling okay. As long as my quarterback doesn't get concussed anymore, I'm okay. No, I want to talk about another Colt, though, in former Utah running back Zach Moss. Zach had his season debut. He obviously, we talked about this a month or so ago. He broke his arm in training camp, like the first week. It was like day 3 or something. So he didn't get hardly any run in camp, and then obviously didn't play in any of those preseason games as well. Jonathan Taylor out. Colts have no running back. They had just an abysmal performance in week 1. Their starting running back had like 13 carries for 14 yards or something. I can't remember exactly what the numbers were, but it's just like terrible, right? Well, Zach Moss, thank goodness he came back in week 2 because he helped the Colts get the win, but he also had over 100 yards from scrimmage, about 70, 80-ish yards out of the backfield running the ball, and then had a touchdown as well to help the Colts beat the Texans. It's really nice to see him kind of have like a good like rushing game after what we saw late last year, where he like was just such a misfit with the Buffalo Bills. They like didn't run the ball. They like used their running back sparingly. He just like wasn't a fit for their offense. And so like last year after the Colts traded for him, I think it was the season finale, actually, he had over 100 yards, touchdown against the Texans, by the way, as well. So keep playing the Texans, and Zach Moss is going to keep putting up numbers. But yeah, I think that he's in a good spot right now. And, Jonathan Taylor's out for at least the first 4 games. So 2 more weeks to go, and we'll see if Zach can keep putting these numbers up. And, maybe it just adds a little bit more leverage to the Colts to be like, hey, like, we don't need to pay Jonathan Taylor. Right. We got Zach Moss. Who knows? Yeah.
He's got to keep performing, right? I mean, one thing that stands out to me is that he was the only running back on their team to get a carry on Sunday. Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew both ran the ball, but he was the only back to get carries in the game. And so that says a couple of things. 1, they're relying on him. 2, the opportunity is there because he's the only one getting the opportunity, so he's got to capitalize. And 3, it could be a depth problem, but again,
it is.
Again, that goes back to opportunity. It's his opportunity.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, going to that depth problem, he played all of the offensive snaps in that game except for 1, which is like unbelievable for an NFL running back, right? Like they rotate out in like goal line situations or like you take a series off or whatever. No, Zach played every single offensive snap except for 1 in that game. Crazy. Just wild.
I'm just looking. They've got Deion Jackson and Jake Funk on the depth chart behind him. admittedly don't know anything about those guys. So there you go.
There you go. Another, just a real quick, wanted to mention Cody Barton had a fumble recovery
Yes.
against your lowly Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
Who, hey,
what a bonkers end to that game, though.
Crazy ending.
Are you kidding me?
I felt bad for you, but at the same time, it was almost like a fitting end to like just kind of who the Broncos have been for the last, what is it, 8 years now?
Right.
6, 7 years. So, it's just kind of crazy.
You should have seen me and Jeremiah. The sports office, the sports section of the newsroom was going nuts on Sunday between the two of us after that Hail Mary. But we kind of both knew that they were probably going to flub that 2-point conversion, and they did. But yeah,
I'll say this much: that was PI on the 2-point conversion.
Sure was.
It was unbelievable they didn't call it, but the refs are probably like, oh, we don't want to be here anymore. Let's get out of this game. One last thing I want to mention. I know he didn't have like an amazing box score game, but Zach Wilson had an awesome throw for a touchdown. Just ripped it down the middle to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson took it the rest of the way, but just a freaking dart that he threw over the middle, which was awesome. The thing about Zach that I just wanted to mention real quickly is there's been a lot of talk after the game from his teammates kind of propping him up, saying like it wasn't his bad. Like when you look at the box score and you see his rating, the completion percentage, the 3 interceptions, like all that's bad. Doesn't look great. You look at his rushing yards and you're like, oh, okay, like picked up some first downs like that. He showed some good, but he also showed some bad. I will say, after hearing Robert Saleh talk about Zach today, it did make me, because like you also have to like take some perspective where you're like, I'm not a part of the locker room. Like Zach maybe has like, maybe he hasn't, maybe they're just like, it's all coach and player speak. Who knows, right? I'm not in the locker room. But some of the things that are being said this year, they have a different vibe to them than they did a year ago, in my opinion. I don't think that Zach is like all the way there. I don't think he's ready. I think that they're like kind of in a spot where they're like, there's nobody else out there. So we're going to ride with him because like he is our best option. And like, we'll see if we can make something out of nothing. Because really at the end of last year, it was nothing. So I think that they're kind of in that spot where they're not like ready to throw him to the fire. But I will say, I don't think it's like as bad as like the bad is out on social media or what you're hearing in like these like talk shows and like, first take hit pieces and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's like that, but I also don't think that Zach's like lighting it up or anything, right? Like I think it's a little bit there in the middle, probably more towards the bad, obviously. But I do think that like he also went against the Cowboys. Really, really tough, first go. Let's see how he is against the Patriots, a team that he played twice last year and twice his rookie year, and one that caused him to be benched last year, a terrible performance against the Pats. I'm really interested, like, let's ride off this week. I want to see him play against New England this next week, and if it's another bad performance, like, maybe it is start time to, start putting that in ink as opposed to erasing some stuff, but I just wanted to get that out there. I think we're too quick to write him off this year. It's only week 2. Let's see how he is as things progress over the first month and a half.
Yeah, I mean, he's put enough on tape over the past year and a half for people to want to be done with him, but he's not put enough on tape. He's not put enough on tape yet since Aaron Rodgers came to town, right? I still think that there might be a different version of Zach that's evolving as we are watching him. He didn't have all of the time he wanted to just kind of be tutored by Aaron and watch him and be an observer and a learner. He kind of got shoved back in maybe sooner than he had wanted, sooner than probably anyone wanted, of course.
Sure.
But I agree with you. I think there is a different vibe. I think he was humbled. I think he probably he knows he's trying hard to regain the trust of teammates and to be in a good place with them, because that is crucial for a quarterback in the NFL. But if you end your last 3 drives with picks, that's ultimately what they're going to remember and see on the tape. There's other things that they see on the tape too.
For
so
sure.
That's got to get corrected. If Zach continues to be a turnover machine like that, it's not going to help him.
Yeah, the thing that I'll add to that is I don't think that it's necessarily just the Aaron Rodgers factor. Because, I think that part of that's, Zach's obviously learning from somebody that he has never had the chance to learn from. Sorry, Joe Flacco, you're not Aaron Rodgers. But I do think that he's also playing, and this is why I want to see it play out a little bit more this season. And I also, I'm thinking, we'll know by week 7, week 8. Midway point of the season, we'll know. Yeah. And the reason why I say that is because the Jets have a better talent group this year than they've had the first 2 years of Zach Wilson's career. But you look at PFF put out some grades on some of the Jets players around Zach. Zach didn't have a great grade. Sauce Gardner, for instance, pretty good game, dropped a pick, obviously, but he was graded at 82.8. Zach was a 48.5, so a significant dip, right? These are guys all playing around Zach on the offense. Dalvin Cook, 40.5, lower than Zach. It was the lowest in his career. 3 offensive linemen on the Jets were in the 30s, all the lowest of their career. It was a just wild, bad performance for their entire offensive line, which is just not a good unit. So again, let's see different opponent.
It some time, for sure.
Give it some time. Dallas looks like they could be in the Super Bowl, right? Let's see him against a couple division opponents, and we'll go from there. But I'm not crowning him. I just felt like I needed to get that out there where it's hey, I think that there's something to what the Jets personnel is saying about Zach right now.
I just need to see consistent improvement. It doesn't have to be massive improvement. It can be baby steps, but I need to see the consistent improvement on a week-by-week basis. Okay, so Kyle, let's look ahead at week 3 now in the NFL, and maybe some of the games that are sticking out to you on the schedule. We've already seen some great ones through these first 2 weeks, and it's going to keep getting better because we still have 15 weeks left of the NFL season. So I'll go ahead and get started with you. Of course, the Saints and Packers is going to be a game that I think for your Sunday morning. Again, I keep picking the Packers because I like watching Jordan Love, but it's going to be fun to maybe see. We mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, if Taysom Hill's role starts to kind of, I don't want to say evolve because we've seen it before, but starts to open back up again, right? If the playbook for him starts to open and his role starts to move into different spots there. Plus, I've been big on Rashid Shaheed. As we know, going back to the preseason podcast that we did, I'm big on him, so I'm excited about that. That's one, as far as Sunday morning goes, one that's going to stand out for me for sure. That's the game I'm keeping my eye on.
Sam, there's so many good games this week. I'm just looking at the schedule right now because I had one that was in mind, and I'm I don't know. There's a few more that I really like. I'm going to say just real quickly, this is not a homer pick. I really am excited to watch Zach Moss again. Yeah, they're going against the Ravens, the Colts versus Ravens on Sunday morning. So just kind of interested to see if he can follow up that performance again. But I'll also say Monday Night Football. It's another doubleheader, back-to-back weeks of Monday Night Football doubleheaders. And you've got the Rams versus the Bengals. The Bengals are 0-2, and Puka Nacua is going to be the focal point for that Bengals defense to shut down. And they're going to be they're going to be scrapping for a win, and it's going to be in Cincinnati. I think it's a really fun matchup to watch because if Puka is going to be the Puka Nacua show is happening. So what's going to happen to shut that down from Cincinnati side? I'm fascinated to watch that. So that's the game I'm looking forward to most.
I like that. That one is going to have my attention on Monday as well. And hopefully we get lots of performances from our locals again. We'll be right back here again next week. Kyle, it's been fun as always chatting about our locals in the NFL. We can't get enough of it. And I just hope it doesn't stop producing the rest of the way. So having said that, we bid you a good week, and we'll see you guys again next week. This is the Yards After College podcast, powered by KSLSports.com, and you can listen to it there and on the KSL Sports app.